If your subconscious was super malleable and didn't care about trying to keep things consistent, you would be so easily influenced by everything that you'd have one conversation with someone, or you'd read an article, or you'd just have a thought, and then you would just become a different person, right? You'd wake up the next morning and you'd bump into your friend and they'd be like, I don't even know who you are anymore. Like, what happened to that person last week who believed this and thought that? Right? And so, in order for you to be consistent and to have a consistent sense of self and a consistent identity and a consistent understanding of who you are and the world and how you interact with it, your identity and all the blueprint that is around it needs to stay the same.
This is By Joyan Season 2. I'm your host, Joyan Chan, and every Wednesday we bring you inspiring stories, powerful message, and fun conversations with me and my special guests and friends, and it's my personal mission to empower you to live and lead a life with joy. This podcast is for you if you're looking for more joy, courage, passion, and purpose in your life. Now let's dive into today's episode and get ready to laugh, learn, and live your life to the fullest. Our guest today helps entrepreneurs understand why they stall, self-sabotage, and lose momentum, even when the strategy is solid, and how to build confidence and follow through consistently. With a background in coaching, clinical hypnotherapy, leadership development at Apple, the Tony Robbins organization, and conflict resolution work with the United Nations, he specializes in the subconscious patterns behind execution, growth, and lasting change. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming the co founder of Subconscious Academy, the one and only Ryan Nichols. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Joanne. Yeah, I don't know about the one and only. I think there are many Ryan Nichols out there if you search online, but I'll take it. And I do own RyanNichols.com, which I'm very happy about because there are many other Ryans out there who would like it. So anyway, no, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for that very nice intro. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my honor to have you on the show, and I always love like subconscious programming and patterns is one of my favorite topics to talk about.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, I'm excited to learn something new from you today. So let's start with, I would say, the obvious issues or problems that people are having that everyone can almost relate to is that we think, or a lot of people think, that they need discipline or motivation. But based on the work that you do, what is actually going on underneath that?
Yeah, it's what drives the entire self-help industry for the most part, right? Is this messaging that, hey, just try harder, just do better, just tap into that willpower, and then you'll get what you finally are striving for. And while there's some truth to that, there is a lot more going on that most people don't understand. And the fact is that our conscious desire, our conscious intent, our conscious goals often don't influence our ability to actually achieve them very much. Much more importantly are the subconscious patterns, the subconscious blueprint, if you will, that we all have. And that is ultimately determining in a big way to what extent we are likely to be able to actually achieve those goals. And so if there is a misalignment between your conscious intent and your subconscious blueprint, there's going to be a problem. You're only going to get so far. The problem with that is then you start to feel bad, right? You're like, oh, I need to try harder. I just need to be more disciplined. And again, that only gets you so far. And so it puts people into this kind of self-help trap where they're trying and then they're beating themselves up a little bit. And then, oh, maybe I just need another book, or I need to listen to another guru. I need to attend another seminar. And all that kind of conscious level work only gets you so far. And so it causes a lot of people to be stuck, right? We all know what it's like to try to set a goal and to try to achieve it, and we just don't quite get there, right? It's like we bump up against this ceiling and we repeat the same kind of result. And then we're left wondering, am I broken? Am I just missing willpower, right? What's the problem? That's what got me into this kind of work because, myself, much like everyone else, I experienced all that, and I was like, what is happening here, right? Well, there's all this self-help stuff out there. How come it's so challenging to implement? And so that put me down this path to where I am today.
So, what is really holding people back from implementing everything they have learned? Because I can so relate to that. I've read a
Yeah.
lot of self help. I've been to Tony Robbins event, right? Event.
Oh, have you? Oh, nice.
Yeah, I have a bunch of seminars, like you said, right? And I stopped doing that, to be honest. And so yeah, what is really holding people
Hmm.
back from execution, from taking action?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'll talk about Tony Robbins specifically in a moment as well because he's in the middle of this. He's the best out there in terms of trying to bring this work to a seminar kind of format, and I can explain that in a second. But what's really happening is your subconscious mind, your subconscious isn't really interested in your goals, doesn't really care what you consciously want. What it cares about is keeping you safe. It's keeping you protected. Okay, and so if you think about any goal that you have, any internal drive that you have towards achieving something, first of all, the drive is normal and natural, right? We thrive when we are evolving and expanding and growing. Okay, so progress makes us feel good, right? Even if it's small steps, we feel good. We know that we're expanding, evolving, growing, and ultimately, in many ways, that's our life purpose: is to make the most of ourselves. Okay, so we have this internal drive to grow and expand and achieve goals. At the same time, all of that growth, as you understand, as we all understand, takes place outside of our comfort zone. Ever since you were a kid, whether it was learning how to tie your shoes or to ride your bike or whatever it was, all those things were scary until you figured out how to take them on and and then figure it out and master it, and then it became less scary, and so you went from uncertainty to certainty. Okay, and so that's the progress of growth always, is we're always looking to take on new things that lie outside our comfort zone, and so we have this drive to do that. But at the subconscious level, your subconscious doesn't care about your growth. It doesn't care about your drive to achieve any of these things. It wants to keep you safe and secure and to maintain as much certainty in your life as possible. And so when there is this tug of war between what you consciously want, that goal, that thing that is out there in the out of your comfort zone, and the subconscious nature, the subconscious role of keeping you safe, the subconscious wins, right? So there's this tug of war that happens, and the subconscious is going to find a way, to the best of its ability, to keep you where you're at, to a point, right? It's still, it doesn't mean you never try. Obviously, we learn things in our life, right? So, again, going back to those early examples, all the way till now, there's still things that you do that for you to get out of your comfort zone, and you start to learn and expand and grow still, but usually to a point, right? So if you imagine your, very comfortable area, and then you start to expand out, and the further you get away from that comfort zone, right, more likely the subconscious is to finally kick in and say, you know what, that's enough. And so it's really about understanding that dynamic, understanding that, okay, this is what's happening. It's funny, there's this idea of like, oh, you need to like 10x your goal kind of thing. You just need a bigger goal. And while there's value in that sometimes to get you thinking about different strategies for achieving it, what happens is that the bigger the goal, the larger the fear, right? The more risk there is. And so the more likely you are to have your subconscious find a creative way sometimes to undercut your ambition. Okay. And that's what drives self-sabotage. Okay. And so the self-sabotage isn't because we suddenly don't care about the thing that we're trying to achieve, right? It's important to us, presumably. And sometimes it's not. Maybe you have a goal that isn't that important to you, right? Maybe it's a goal that you adopted from someone else. Someone else told you you should do it. For the most part, any of the goals that you truly care about, the things that really matter to you, you have all kinds of compelling reasons for why why you should achieve this, how it's going to feel, what's it going to mean, who you're going to become when you achieve this. These are important goals. So why would we suddenly self-sabotage? Why would we come up with all these ways that suddenly keep us on the couch, right? Or keep us or cause us to do things that take us further away, or at least delay the progress that's required in order to achieve that goal. Well, like, why would we do that? It makes no logical sense, right? No conscious sense, because it's not a not a conscious process. It's a subconscious process that's kicking in, right? And so when we start to understand that, at least you have an ability to start to understand the nature of the problem, and then you can start to work towards trying to address it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Personally, I understand what you're talking about, and this is the reason why we self sabotage, we procrastinate, even though we care about it so much. So the question is, how do we become conscious of our unconscious mind or unconscious programming or unconscious pattern? Like,
Yep.
I believe that's where we start, right?
Yeah. So, and that is the first step for sure, is to understand kind of what I just described, and to understand the dynamic that is happening for you and for everyone, which is that hey, there are, for the most part, your subconscious is running your patterns of behavior, your patterns of action, your patterns of emotion, and you are very much on autopilot, through the day. That doesn't mean you have no conscious ability to shape your decisions and actions. You can consciously decide what to focus on, and what you focus on will influence what you feel in the moment. Through that conscious intent, start to shape and influence your patterns of thoughts and actions and behaviors and feelings. But the default is very much still going to be the subconscious. And so most people don't get that. All right. They don't understand. They think that they are just consciously running their own show all day long. So first step is to recognize that is not the case. Okay. And then it's to recognize, wait a minute, what are some of these automatic patterns that I'm not even aware of? And when you start to bring awareness to some of these things, it helps you, it empowers you a little bit to first recognize, wait a minute, okay, there is this distinction between what I consciously want and what is automatically happening. And then it opens the door for you to start to make some shifts. So for example, some easy examples are when you have some unconscious habits, we all do, right? And it's interesting to notice when they kick in. Okay, and so it might be something as simple as picking up your phone, right? There's a common one. You're picking up your phone and you catch yourself like opening up your app of choice, you're doom scrolling, you're checking the news, whatever it is, and you're like, when did I decide to do that? Right? That was like, so that was very much a reaction. And the question would be, well, why did I do that? Right? And this might be a low level example, but it's still an example of a behavior that you're not consciously necessarily intending to do. Sometimes you are, but oftentimes you're not. Right? And so what were you feeling or experiencing right before that action? Because often that gives you a hint as to what was driving it. A more concrete example, or example that's maybe more related to discomfort, is if I don't know, before I have to go do something that's putting me out of my comfort zone. Maybe I'm going to go jump on stage or something. I might catch myself, and I'm working on something. I might catch myself biting my nails. I used to bite my nails when I was a kid. Don't do it hardly at all very often these days, but I'll catch myself still once in a while, suddenly like, and I'm like, what am I doing? Right. And that is purely a reaction to my discomfort, right? I am playing in the realm of that uncertainty, right? And my at a subconscious level, it's like, hey, I'm not loving this. And so what it does is it triggers a response, an old response in that example, that brings you certainty. It's a behavior that was familiar, and it was a habit that was ingrained from a long time ago. And so we all have these kind of examples of behaviors that we engage in that we don't consciously intend to engage in, but they kick in because the subconscious feels like it's required. And so if you think of any of the actions that you tend to sabotage, the actions that you tend to avoid, that represent some of this growth, some of this getting out of your comfort zone, it's helpful for you to take a look at those actions that are undermining your growth and your progress, and to identify them, and to try to step back a little bit and ask, well, what was I feeling? What was happening right before that behavior kicked in? What did I focus on? Right? Consciously or not, right? It was unconscious most likely, but it's like, what was I focusing on? Where did my head go? What was I visualizing? What was I imagining? And what was I telling myself? Okay. Maybe someone they want to go to the gym. They want to get in shape, but they have, getting in shape and going to the gym is a big stretch for them, which it is for many people, because It's a new behavior. It requires getting out of their comfort zone in all kinds of ways. Maybe they fundamentally have an identity, which is I'm not a gym person. I'm not that kind of person, right? That's not who I am. That's not what I do. In fact, I don't even like those people. That's not, but I'm going to do it, right? Consciously, I'm going to go do it. They may find themselves suddenly like, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to do it, right? And then suddenly, like they're self-sabotaging. They're like cleaning the house, right? Oh, I have to clean my house, and they're, oh no, it's too late to go to the gym. I missed my window or whatever. So in that kind of moment, you have to stop and be like, well, what was I doing right before I started cleaning the house? What did I start thinking of and telling myself of? And if you can do that kind of analysis, you'll start to recognize, well, I started to envision myself going to the gym, and I started to tell myself this is the worst. I don't like this, or like this is a waste of time. And I started to imagine seeing myself in the mirror, like not doing well, and whatever it might be, right? And there's this process, this trigger moment that could lead to ultimately some self-sabotage. Okay, so it's a very long answer, but basically awareness of these patterns can help as a starting point, so that then you can anticipate them and start to shift them.
I really love the example because that's what happened on the first day of the new year,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everyone has their own,
Yeah,
everyone's, has it on their New Year's resolution to go to the gym and start working out. And so many people forget all about their goals by February, right? I believe so much of what you're talking about is the identity part, right?
huge.
We really have to change on that deep identity level enough for us to really make lasting change. But again, I believe sometimes, like I go to the gym, right? But sometimes I just feel unmotivated, like for real. I just
Mm-hmm.
feel lazy, like I just don't want to go, right? But at the core, I'm still a gym person, right? I still like going to the gym. I identify myself as someone who goes to the gym. So how do we know that we are experiencing, like what we are experiencing is internal resistance or self-sabotage, or it's just like pure laziness?
I would say the high level answer is it doesn't really matter. What matters ultimately is to what extent do you really want to achieve this thing and do this thing, and how much resistance is there that is undermining your progress and your ability to do so. Okay. So is the resistance coming from, because there's this subconscious pattern that is saying that you're someone different and it's not good for you, or is it just you're physically tired and some days you just, don't have the physical energy and don't want to do it and so forth? Yeah, but the bigger picture still is that, and this ties into the identity piece ultimately, but if there is significant amount of resistance, like a one-off not going to the gym because you're tired, that's, okay, we get that. We've all been there. But if you have this kind of recurring pattern, or this like recurring resistance, this almost chronic sense, either, it's like Sisyphus, you're pushing the boulder up the hill and then it rolls back down on you, and you do this over and over, or you continually try to and try is, I'm trying, but like you're walking through mud and you're not making much progress, and it's so hard. It's like, where is like so much resistance? Either like make progress and fall back, or just the progress in general is just such a grind. That's, and again, if you have strong reasons for wanting to achieve this goal, how much and to what extent versus other stuff. If there was no subconscious resistance, you would be crushing it, right? Even with days of being tired and doing whatever. Okay. So the subconscious is massively powerful, right? Again, if there's a tug of war, the subconscious always wins. Always. Okay. It's designed to keep you safe. Keeping you safe is important. Yes, growing is important as well, but secondary to ultimately keeping you safe and secure. And so if you are experiencing consistent resistance, strong resistance, that is absolutely a sign that there is something else going on at the subconscious level. Can I speak to the identity piece for a sec?
Yes, please.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that you called that out. And I think that's a testament to the work that you've been doing. And I know you're a coach as well, and had many guests as well, and done all kinds of reading and so forth. So I think you're ahead of the curve. But most people don't understand the power of identity, right? When it comes to the personality, your sense of self, the sense of who you are, is the most powerful force. Okay, and this is pure Tony Robbins, and I used to work for Tony Robbins and know know his stuff very well. And it's not just Tony Robbins, but it's certainly a big part of what he talks about and speaks to, which is that we will shape our actions so that they reinforce how we see ourselves.
Mm.
Okay, which is why if you're like, I'm going to go get in shape, but you keep telling yourself, I'm not an athlete, I'm not a fit person, I'm just a big boned fat person, and that's who I am, and that's my destiny, and that right. But then you're like, no, I'm going to go do it. It's not going to last, okay? Because at an identity level, you have not made the shift. The shift has to happen at that identity level. And when we say identity, I mean we're talking about your subconscious blueprint, right? How you see yourself. We have all of these rules and elements that define who we are and how we live our life. That creates our comfort zone. So we're comfortable with who we are and with what our rules are. This is what's right. This is what's wrong. This is who I am. This is who I'm not. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not. Okay. And so it's like these are all the elements of our blueprint. The subconscious is like, yep, I understand all this. This is who I am. Got it all figured out. And now my job is to keep that consistent. And part of the reason for that is if your subconscious was super malleable and didn't care about trying to keep things consistent, you would be so easily influenced by everything that you'd have one conversation with someone, or you'd read an article, or you'd just have a thought, and then you would just become a different person, right? You'd wake up the next morning and you'd bump into your friend, and they'd be like, I don't even know who you are anymore. Like, what happened to that person last week who believed this and thought that? Right?
Yeah.
And so, in order for you to be consistent and to have a consistent sense of self and a consistent identity and a consistent understanding of who you are and the world and how you interact with it, your identity and all the blueprint that is around it needs to stay the same, right? And your subconscious's job is to make that happen. It's protecting it. Okay. So, if you cannot shift at a level of the identity and the goal that you are striving for doesn't fall within that sense of who you are. You have some kind of rule or some kind of belief that that is not something that you do. It's not something you're capable of. It's not something that's for you. You can consciously chip away at it, and maybe you'll make some progress, but you're not going to achieve that level until you've upgraded your sense of identity. Now, the sense of identity, the blueprint in general, is malleable. That's the good news. It sounds like everything I've said up to now sounds very depressing, right? But it's not, because your sense of self and all that blueprint, all your subconscious in general, can shift. Okay, it's not rigid granite. It can shift, but it doesn't want to. It's the default is for it to stay the same.
Yeah. So how much um how much of our identity is really fixed, and how much can we really change, like realistically speaking?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a very, very
Yeah, I never asked that question before.
no, I mean it's an important question. It's a great question. Like obviously there's not like well it's 37%. It's not it's a very qualitative, idea in general. I believe through what I've seen with people and that you can shift, all of it for the most part, and maybe that's extreme, but I don't believe that, let me put it another way. I don't believe that anyone who says, "Oh, I can't do it because I'm this kind of person. I can't make the change because of my biography, my history, I think that is garbage." And so it doesn't matter how stuck you might feel. It doesn't matter, how powerful you think your biography is, your history is, your limiting factors may be, whatever. None of that is powerful enough to stop you from transforming and shifting and creating lasting change. I've seen that over and over and over again. So that's in terms of identity and in terms of blueprint stuff in general, right? Who you believe you are, what you're capable of, all the beliefs, the rules, all the things, all that can change, and it can change fast. That's the other piece. Like my background's in psychology as my first degree. I have a strong appreciation for all the versions of talk therapy out there, and they have their place and their value. I did my share of talk therapy as a kid, as I was trying to figure out all my stuff. there's value and power in that, and it has its place. One of the challenges, though, with that model, and with a lot of the general public buying into that model, is they then subscribe to the idea that, oh, I gotta go to do some therapy. It's gonna be a long grind. It's gonna take. Whew, I got a lot of stuff to fix, and it's gonna be a journey, right? We'll be there forever, right? And if you buy into that, well, guess what? Yeah, that's how it'll be, right? Some things do take time. I'm not trying to discount that reality for some situations and some people, but for the most part, it's a lot faster, a lot quicker than people realize, and it starts with believing that and understanding that. The mind can change like this, the identity can change like this, right? It starts with a decision, and if you can reinforce that decision with some processes and tools to help you implement that decision, change can happen in a blink. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I've done it. I think we all have in moments. Some people buy into the idea that it's a struggle. It doesn't have to be a struggle.
Yeah, I believe now my listeners or people who are listening will be asking, so what is the way to change, right? I mean, what is the faster way to change subconscious pattern or even our identity? Like, how do we change that?
Yeah. So okay, and this will tie back into the Tony Robbins seminar piece as well, because the key ingredient to making all of this kind of change is always emotion. Okay. And so emotion resides at the subconscious level. When you are tapping into emotion, you are very much in that space where you're tapping into the subconscious, and when you're in that space, you have the ability to start to reframe it. Okay. Let's talk about hypnosis a little bit, because people don't
Yep.
understand that it has such a there's so much confusion around it because of Hollywood and so forth. So, hypnosis is a focused state of concentration. Okay, and what it allows you to do is, so when you're in a state of trance, so I say trance, it means hypnosis. Okay, and we are in and out of states of trance all day long, right? Anytime you are lost in thought, when you are reading a book, when you're watching TV, when you're driving and don't even remember how you got to from here to there, when you're just immersed in your own kind of thoughts and you're very focused in this focused state, that's a state of trance. Okay, it's a natural state we all go through all the time. When you're in a state of trance, a state of hypnosis, that means the conscious mind starts to recede, and the subconscious, it becomes more accessible. And the subconscious mind doesn't judge and evaluate what's real and what's not. The subconscious just takes on suggestions and ideas for what they are. So when your subconscious becomes more receptive, or when your subconscious is more present, so when you're in the state of trance and the conscious mind has kind of receded a little bit, and the subconscious is more open, it's more receptive to suggestions, more receptive to ideas, more receptive to statements, different information like that. Okay, that's important to understand, because that is a state it's in that state where you can start to shift some of the blueprint, where you can start to upgrade the identity, where you can start to take on, embrace different beliefs, different rules, and so forth. How do we get to that state as much as possible? Well, one of the easiest ways is through emotion. Okay, so emotion is a gateway very much to that subconscious mind. Okay, and so even if you're just by yourself and you're going for a walk, you can just be lying down. It doesn't need to be intense emotion. It can be, but you want to try to create and connect to positive emotion. And when you're doing so, when you can connect to that positive emotion, especially when you're connecting this emotion, for example, to an idea you have in your mind, going back to the gym idea, right? I'm going to see myself, imagine myself going to the gym and like being that fit person, becoming that fit person. And I'm not just visualizing it and imagining it, but I am experiencing the feeling of doing it as well. When you start to experience the feeling, what you're doing is you're training your subconscious to start to tag that experience as important. And it starts to also identify that, connect that feeling to the experience, to the visualization in this case. And it starts to say, oh, this is important. And if you do that repeatedly, it starts to take it on as like, well, this is just the reality. It starts to upgrade whatever the identity was and the belief was, and upgrades it to this new identity, this new reality. that's been sort of tagged with this very powerful emotion that you're now feeling. If you do this quite a bit, you start to build the muscle and you start to condition it. The more you start to feel this, the more you start to connect that feeling to this new version of who you are, to this new result that you're trying to achieve, the more this starts to just take hold and eventually just becomes the default at a subconscious level of who you are and what you're able comfortably to achieve. Does that make sense? First, I know I'm trying to squeeze a lot of concepts in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So then I want to go back to the Tony Robbins thing for a second because so Tony Robbins does he does seminars, right? Well, we just talked about how all like these the challenge with these self-help seminar kind of things is it's like, all right, good, just go do it. You can do it. Like just step up and go and, be better. So that's not a Tony Robbins seminar, that's many others. But what Tony Robbins does differently is, and the reason his seminars are very long and very intense is because of the emotion. All right, the emotion is key. He gets you into an emotional state. Why? Just so you'll feel good? Just so you're going to be like, wow, isn't this fun? No. It's because he understands, and he'll say this at times. He'll never talk about hypnosis, but he will say things like, all lasting change happens in a trance. Like he'll say that from stage from time to time. Most people like don't understand the implications of that, but what he's telling you is that you need to access the subconscious and make these changes at an identity level, right? At a blueprint level in order for the change to stick. Well, how can he do that? And how can you do that as a participant when you're in this setting? He's he's emotionally firing you up, right? Or helping you get emotionally connected. Okay, and so you'll do closed eye processes, right? You'll connect to your feelings, you'll visualize what you want, you'll connect to this new version of yourself, you'll even give this new identity a name, right? I'm super Joyan, I'm capable of this, and I know here, feel this. Okay, and so you're very emotionally stirred up and emotionally connected, and this is reinforced over time. So yeah, it feels good, but what's ultimately happening in a important way, important level, is that you are in a state of trance, and this is upgrading the subconscious. Okay, so this is going from conscious level, yay, isn't this fun? This is great, to emotionally being stirred up and having your subconscious upgraded. So we can do the same thing ourselves. How do we do that? Well, like I said, you can be lying down and doing kind of a meditation. Okay, you can be going on a walk. I call them power walks, right? Whether you're walking the dog or walking to the grocery store or just walking around the block, focus on the compelling future, right? Focus on the thing that you want, whether it's scaling the business, whether it's getting super fit, whatever it might be, right? You focus on the goal, but it's not just the goal, but it's the feeling that comes with it. Okay, as I'm sure you know, Joyan, the value of the goal of achieving goals is not the goal itself, it's the feeling that we are after, right? So, like, why do you want to be a millionaire? Because of like the paper money? No, it's because of the feeling, whether it's freedom or certainty or pride or whatever it is. Whatever, every key goal that you have is connected to an emotion. And if you can't tap into that emotion, or that emotion isn't very strong, then it's probably not a very important goal. But if it has value to you, right, there's going to be a lot of emotion attached to it. And so you connect to that emotion. And you can do that. You can do that with your eyes open while you're walking the dog. It's fine. But you just like focus on it and imagine how it's going to feel when you achieve it. Right? And then you imagine achieving it now. And as you do that, you imagine who you are having achieved it. And who have I become having achieved it? What does it mean to me? Okay. And so the more you are able to step into and feel that experience of victory, if you will, the more you are conditioning the subconscious mind. You are upgrading it. You're telling it, this is what's happening. This is reality right now. Your subconscious doesn't distinguish between what you imagine and what is real. When you're having a nightmare or a fun dream, it feels real, right? Right? You wake up in a sweat or you wake up and your heart's beating. How come? Well, that was all happening at a subconscious level when you're asleep. It felt real because to your subconscious, it was real, right? Your subconscious does not distinguish between reality versus what it imagines vividly. And so, how do you imagine something vividly? Well, it always involves emotion, right? That's what we're talking about in terms of the visualization, in terms of like seeing it, feeling it, being it. When you do that, the subconscious is like, oh, this is reality. And you do it over and over and over again, and your subconscious has now evolved. So I'm giving you very long answers here, John. Feel free to interrupt me.
No, I mean that's good stuff. Like I don't want to interrupt you. I mean that's good stuff. Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
I love visualization, but I think I remember at some point of time I didn't want to do visualization because I resisted it. And
Sure.
so how again, like this is another thing that we talked about already, right? It's like you procrastinate, right? You even though this is good for you, like this is gonna help you achieve your goal, like everything we talk about, the power
Yeah.
walk, visualization, tapping into an emotion, but still at some level we can resist it. So again, I think it's a constant battle between your subconscious mind and your subconscious mind, right? They are I don't know. Does it even make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. So I would not frame it as a battle for your own self, because how you frame it's important, for sure. And it actually ties into this idea of this idea in parts therapy, or kind of Gestalt therapy and psychology, like that we have these different parts, right? And so
Yep.
there's the part of you that wants to go and step up and achieve your goal. There's a part of me that wants to go to the gym. Yes.
Yep.
And then there's a part of you that's like, whoa, no, like that's not who you are. Relax, like take it easy. What's the rush? You're gonna burn out. You should chill. Sit on the couch, watch some Netflix. You deserve it. Relax. Okay. And so sometimes we'll be like, oh, I hate that part of me that keeps me on the couch. And I
Yep.
just want to crush it. I just want to just, oh, I wish I could just get rid of it. Right? That is never going to work, because the idea, and this is, I don't know, has showed up always in with my clients and in my work, every part is trying to help you and serve you in some kind of way. Okay. So that part that wants to keep you on the couch, doesn't hate you. It's not trying to hurt you. It's not trying to harm you. It's trying to, again, keep you safe. It's trying to make sure, hey, you know what? Like, that's scary. Don't do all that. Do this because you know what? It's comfortable. It's fun. It's going to feel good. You're used to it. You know what to expect. It's going to meet all of your needs. Do this. And it looks at your life from this very singular perspective, but like it has a positive intent and it's trying to do its job the best it can. So if you try to crush it, it's not going to work, because you can't crush a part of you that is trying to help you ever. Instead, you have to recognize that part of you that is trying to self sabotage and the part of you that wants to go to the gym, they're actually on the same team. They work together. Except that right now it's being framed as a tug of war. Anytime you are, I do a lot of conflict negotiation and so forth. Like what you need to do is in a former life, and still sometimes with clients, but what you ultimately have to do is you have to find the common ground. Where is the common interest? So even in a spouse, or a married couple that's fighting, well, where are the common interests? What do you both want? What's both important to you? Where's the common ground? Oh, well, we want, like, I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to be miserable. And we don't want our kids to be miserable. And okay, great. So like start there. Same thing with these parts. Well, where's the common ground? What do they both want? Well, they both want you to be happy. They both want you to be okay and safe. But this part of you wants to do it by going to the gym and getting fit, right? And growing, expanding, evolving. This part of you wants to do it by keeping you safe and safe at home. So it's about reconciling those parts and making sure that they are working together. And so instead of trying to crush that part, right, you recognize that, okay, it's just doing its job a little bit too well. And so sometimes in this tug of war, it's much like when you have some big wrestler versus some small kid, right? It's like not even, okay? And so if we have a strong part that is constantly self-sabotaging, and we have this little part of us that's trying to get us to go to the gym, right? It's like an arm wrestle match that's uneven. And so really it's about really connecting to that part that's self-sabotaging, understanding its intent, and helping it understand, helping all parts understand collectively that you have a common interest here. And what's best, if what you want is what's best for you as a person, if that's the common ground, then it's about getting those parts to reconcile and work together. So that part that's trying to keep you on the couch so much, say, hey, you know what? Like, I know you want to keep me safe and secure. It's cool. But it's also important for my happiness that I also go out there and go to the gym and allow myself to get in shape and allow myself to grow and expand and evolve and become, a better version of myself. All that sounds like a very conscious level process, and it, the way I just described it, it is. But this is something that you can do just in your own mind, and it's something obviously you can do with, a hypnotherapist and so someone who's trained in this. But just understanding that dynamic, understanding that, hey, I need to stop trying to crush this part and stop framing it as a battle. I'm fighting this part of me that's slowing me down. Don't fight it, right? Talk to it. Recognize its value, right? What's it trying to do for you? How we deal with some of the the resistance that's always going to come up, right? And part of it is really understanding that part of us that is resisting is serving us. It's not a part that is trying to feels like it's against us because it feels like it's undermining our efforts to achieve our goal, right? But ultimately, there's always a positive intent behind every part. And so the part of you that is causing you to procrastinate and to stay on the couch instead of achieving your goal, going to the gym or whatever it might be, it's there just trying to serve you. It's trying to protect you. It's trying to make sure that you don't do anything, scary and dangerous. And so we might not like the result of that. And so that gets us frustrated. And so we're like, I want to crush that part that is trying to make me avoid going to the gym. And you might be able to crush it for a while. You might be like, aha, I've done it, right? I've been able to ignore that part. But what usually happens, and I've seen it and we probably all experienced it, is there'll be a snapback, right? So you'll like crush it and ignore it. Forget that part. I'm going. And that's kind of where like the willpower basically means like, I'm just like doing it. I'm doing it, doing it. But that subconscious drive, the subconscious muscle, which is stronger than your conscious willpower, if you will, it's always going to win. And so you might be able to, it's kind of like winning the arm wrestle for a while. I'm doing it. I'm winning. And all of a sudden, boom, right? You get, there's this snapback and all of a sudden you're on the couch. You're like, what happened? Okay. And this is what happens with New Year's resolutions kind of thing, right? So you're like, this time I'm going to do it. I'm going. Okay. And so you're consciously all fired up and you're doing it for a while and you're ignoring that part within you that wants to keep you on the couch and keep you safe and keep you, the same, keep you who you are. And you ignore it and you're like, I'm going for it. And then X number of days, weeks later, right? Boom. And all of a sudden you're toast. And so recognizing that that part is actually not a bad part is a very important first step, or a step in making this shift. So recognize, wait a minute, I don't need to crush that part. I need to understand its purpose, and I need to work together with it. So you turn this dynamic away from this tug of war, right, to more of a, okay, same team, same dream, let's work together on this. So then you find some compromise, and you almost like you talk to that part. You say, hey, I know you're trying to keep me safe. I get it. And I know you want what's best for me. But what's best for me is also for me to grow and evolve and expand. So, like, I need to go to the gym. I need to take the steps. I need to achieve this goal. You know, I'll go slow. I'll go steady. I'll come back and sit on the couch once in a while. We'll make sure it's not a super scary thing. Um, and we'll work together to make sure that ultimately both sides are happy. Both of those parts feel like I'm safe, I'm secure, but I'm also growing and expanding and evolving, right? And I'm doing what's best for me. And so that sounds like a very intellectual process, and it is. But if you can do it again as part of your kind of visualization process, you do it as a process of really connecting and understanding yourself and really talking to yourself. It helps this rewiring process at a subconscious level. It works very much so. So that is one step that you can take, is to frame it differently and actually get those parts to work together as opposed to having a tug of war.
I love that. I never thought of that before, and I'm gonna start trying. And like talking to yourself. I mean, talking to yourself in a way that's like what you described, right? It's just never happened to me before, and I'm gonna start trying and see what happens. Now, for people who are listening, you know, everything where we talk about, you could easily summarize it as we have become our own biggest enemy, biggest obstacle, right? So, what is one practical shift someone can make today? Like, they have big dreams, they have big goals, right? They want to achieve things. Otherwise, they wouldn't be listening to this podcast. So, what is one practical shift someone can make today to reduce self sabotage and build more consistent momentum? Like, what's one thing you want them to do today?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is really to reframe what you just the way you just described it, which is super common. I understand what, right? Like, oh, I'm my own worst enemy, and like, that part of me that's holding me back. I hate that, right? So it's like is to get away from that idea that there's a battle, an internal struggle, and that kind of thing. I know that's how it feels, and that's how it comes about. But if you can get away from that and recognize, first of all, no, like my mind is just doing what it's meant to do, to keep me safe and secure, and to keep my sense of self, right, my sense of identity consistent. That's okay. So to understand that, that's the first thing. Because if you frame it as a battle and as a struggle and like you are that's a waste of energy, and it's not going to lead to the shift that you're looking for, right? We're all on the same team, team Joyan, team Ryan, right? Acknowledge them, recognize them, thank them, and recognize, yeah, we're going the same direction. Okay. Second thing is to understand that you are not broken, you're not fixed, you're not rigid. You have the ability for your blueprint, and by blueprint I mean ultimately, your identity and everything underneath that. Okay, your rules, your values, your beliefs about who you are, the world, and so forth. All of that is malleable, and all of those and shifts can be made quickly and easily. Even just with those two understandings, if you really own that and you let your decisions and your thinking flow from that, that can lead to very big changes. But more proactively or strategically, what can you do? Well, the third piece then is, as we mentioned, start to become aware of the patterns, the actions, the patterns of thought, the patterns of actions that you're taking that are happening without you realizing it. And when you start to bring awareness, when you bring conscious awareness to what are ultimately have been and currently are subconscious habits, that opens the doorway to start to shift them a little bit. Because there is always a fraction of time between the moment you think of something and the moment you take action, right? Those automatic habits, we're not taking advantage of that fraction of time. We're just like, we just kind of do it. But when you start to bring conscious awareness to it, like my example of kind of biting your nails or whatever, right? If you're just like, wait a minute, like, what am I doing? Okay. And so that starts to open the door for you to start to shift behavior. So bring conscious awareness to the patterns that you have been, unconsciously running at a subconscious level. So more awareness is good. So bring more awareness to that. Next is to understand the power of emotion. Okay, that emotion very much is the gateway to the subconscious. Okay, and so you mentioned how it's challenging to visualize at times, or sometimes I don't want to do it and so forth. I get that, but recognize that the more you are able to do that, the more you are able to access that subconscious blueprint and give it direction. You're basically telling it what's important to you. And so, classic Tony Robbins, he turns them from affirmations into incantations. An incantation is something that's emotionally charged, right? Language that evokes and inspires a strong feeling. And so if you can get in the habit of using some language to help evoke and strengthen and reinforce strong feelings, the feeling of excitement, the feelings that you feel await you at the end of your goal, you can feel those things now, right? You can feel them now. I mean, that's kind of one of the big secrets of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich is most people don't get this part, but in fact he wrote an add-on piece, an extra book called Grow Rich with Peace of Mind. And part of it is really understanding that you can feel what you want to feel now, right? We have the ability to create whatever emotion we want by shifting our power of focus. Like what you focus on is what you feel. If you want to focus on all the good things in your life, if you want to focus on how you've been successful, what you're proud of, how you're crushing it today, right? You're going to feel great. You're going to feel pride. You're going to feel happy. You're going to feel all these things. If you focus on what's going wrong and you focus on how you're not there yet and how disappointed you are and how you're not enough and how, then you'll feel guilt and shame and all these horrible things. So if we have that ability through the power of our focus to feel what we want to feel in the moment, then that's an ability that we should be leveraging and building. That's a muscle we want to grow, right? Instead of most people, and it's not their fault because we're taught this, the goal setting. I'm going to set my goal and then I'm just going to strive until I get to the top of the mountain. And when I get to the top of the mountain and I achieve it, then I'll feel like I made it. Like, it doesn't work that way. First of all, that it makes it less likely to achieve your goal because you're going to feel miserable until you get there. And feeling miserable is not a good ingredient for, a good recipe for success. And secondly, like, achieving the goal isn't about getting to the top of the mountain. It's who you become in the process, right? And who you become in the process involves also learning how to feel the positive feelings, the feelings of pride, of accomplishment, and all these things. And so you want to, going back to the idea of the subconscious, you want to get in the habit of feeling, connecting, visualizing. And sometimes people say, I can't visualize. It doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong. You can connect to the feeling. It might have a place in your body. It might just be all around you. It might be strong. It might be weak. That's okay. But do the best you can to connect to the feeling that is related to this goal that you have. And the more you do that, the more you are tagging it as important, the more you're making it real at a subconscious level. And then the more the subconscious makes that a reality. And when it starts to make that a reality, it says, oh, Joyan is this person who feels great about this level of success. Now that starts to become part of your identity. This is who I am. This is what I'm capable of, right? This is what I've achieved. This is how I feel. And this is the new Joyan. Now the subconscious will protect that new identity, right? And so the identity is expanded and shifted, and now your subconscious is protecting it in a way that's supporting you. You're happy that it's protecting that new Joyan because that's an expanded identity. So all that kind of work, and a lot of that can just be meditation. It could be power walks. It could be just sitting on the couch. It could just be taking time to really connect to the feelings related to these goals that you have, or you access it through some help, right? And so I have also something called the Subconscious Starter Kit on our website, which has a starter audio track, and so we built that for people. It's just to give them it's called the Sanctuary Session, and it's just a hypno audio track that helps people get to a place where they can just start to connect and experience some of this feeling, right? I'll stop there for a sec because
Yeah, totally makes sense. And thanks for that. You have broken down to just simple steps, right? Step one, reframe. Step
yeah.
two, you are not fixed. Step three, becoming aware of your unconscious patterns. I think it's a lot of work, to be honest, right? I mean, it's a lot. Or maybe I should reframe how I say it. Like, it's not a lot of work, right? It's simple, it's easy. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you don't need to minimize it either. I guess I would say that we are products of our habits. We are living our patterns, reinforcing our patterns all the time. Patterns of focus, patterns of language, patterns of meaning, right? What am I focusing on? What am I telling myself? What do I make it mean? We're doing that all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. We do it without realizing it. Most people don't realize that they are doing this, so they don't realize the power of that. And so, is it hard to, learn how to consciously, intentionally shift your focus? It can be. I mean, it takes, if you're not used to doing it. Is it hard even just to get used to shifting your language, right? We have patterns of language, right? Sometimes it's just internal dialogue, internal language, right? Like, oh, I suck at this, or I'm the worst, or like those are patterns of language that are habitual, and maybe they've been in place for a long time. Can it take some time to turn that around? Sure. Is it super hard? Is that like a big lift? Not necessarily, right? But yeah, I mean, the more negative patterns you have, the more work there is to be done. I guess the more awareness you need and the more intentionality you need and time you need to make the shifts. But I mean, you could remove a word from your vocabulary, like that. Might it try to creep in later? Maybe. But then you're just like, oh, I forgot. I'm not using that word anymore. I'm not telling myself that story anymore, right? Or I'm not focusing on that anymore, right? I'm going to give something a different meaning. So let's say you're out of shape and you're looking in the mirror and you're like, oh, Like I'm such a slob. I suck. Every time you look at the mirror and you see yourself, you have this very negative meaning that you've given it and yourself. Okay. Well, that can be turned around in a heartbeat, right? Well, what else could it mean? Look, I'm alive and I have this amazing body that I'm grateful for, and I'm going to honor it and take care of it. And I'm excited about going to the gym so I can embrace even more energy and vitality and honor this gift of my physical vessel, right? Or whatever it is, whatever your version of that is. But all that is just a shift in meaning, and that shift can happen, instantly.
You're right. I mean, I've done it before. I sure can do it again, right? I
Of
mean,
course.
again, it's all about the evidence, right? I love something. I'm not sure whether this is from Tony Robbins, like, but borrow other people's belief if you don't have it yet, right? Borrow from others, right? People who have done it before,
100%.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much for everything. I mean, I learned so much. You are so good at this. So who do you only work with entrepreneurs nowadays? That if people want to explore working with you, what are some of the ways they can work with you?
Yeah. So, yeah, my backstory briefly is, so I used to, in your intro, you mentioned I worked for the UN for many years. I worked for Apple for a bunch of years doing coaching and leadership training and conflict resolution, all this stuff. But I got into hypnotherapy as a craft as well a long time ago, alongside my father. My father also has his own practice, and so we kind of were learning together, which was fun over the years. To your question, our focus has been on entrepreneurs just because that's what I relate to most these days as an entrepreneur myself. And you can probably relate to this as well. I mean, it's a grind to be an entrepreneur. Can be, doesn't have to be, right? Being aware of my language, but that's how many people would relate to it, right? It's not easy, and again, because you're getting out of your comfort zone. Yeah, it's a hustle, and there's so many aspects of it that are outside your comfort zone, or outside maybe of your identity, and so there's so many tools and resources out there that people throw money at. Oh, I just need another book, another method, another approach, another shiny object, right? And so we call this the strategy graveyard, right? There's no shortage of strategies that we've all invested in, and sometimes without getting very far. I've seen so many amazing, skilled, talented entrepreneurs who just are unable to like make it happen. And then they go back and they get some 9 to 5 job that they really don't like. It doesn't lift them up, but they feel compelled because the certainty is calling them, and they're unable to do it. And it's not usually because they don't have the skills. They have the skills, right? But they just they bump up against the ceiling. They're procrastinating. They're trying hard, but they're also undercutting their own efforts, and they have a hard time. So I'm particularly passionate about helping the entrepreneurs, just because I'm so tired of seeing that process, and I've been there, as well in the past. So yeah, so that's my focus. But all of our work apply. If you have a goal and you're trying to, we all do. If you're trying to expand and evolve and finally get to that next level and update your identity and update your results, then come and check us out at Subconscious Academy. Go through the starter kit, go from there. We have a free training that we offer once in a while as well, and we dive a lot more into these kind of details, and it'd be a pleasure to have people there and to speak to them. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing so generously with us today.
Of course.
And so, guys, I'm sure you learned a lot from today's episode. And I hope this conversation really gave you something to reflect on. If you want to go deeper into Ryan's work, check out Subconscious Academy and download the starter kit. I will put all the links and resources that he mentioned in the show note below. Thanks for listening. I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Thank you again for tuning into Find Joy Joyan podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, take a screenshot and share it on your IG story and tag findjoyjoyan_podcast so I know you are listening. And leave us a positive review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already done so. And remember to hit the subscribe button whether you are listening on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, or any of your other favorite platforms. If you love what we are doing and want to become one of our sponsors, you can send me a DM to connect. And thanks for being here. I will see you soon in the next episode.